Hello, this is Nathan, better known as CrazyhermitDM, and this is my podcast, The Hermit's Homebrew. Joining me today is Kilk, who can be found on TikTok as well as Twitter, and Nick, who plays in my personal home game.
Yeah, and we realized in those moments that, we were just off to go kill Xingxi, right? That was what the thing was going to do, and it made sense because we now have a guy who wants that, or is telling us that's what he wants, and he's down to go do it right now. And we're like, great. And then we find out that the mage that told us from the Mages Council that she would come help us is here, and where she was on our way, basically. And we're like, man, this is even better.
Oh,
So it just makes sense to go this way, right? Rathgra's forces shouldn't attack us anymore because Surtur made a deal with her. So, what was it, a non-aggression pact or something, Nathan, is kind of how you explained it?
I explained it as a temporary peace treaty or a peace treaty in standing of. It is a peace treaty.
To deal with the aberrations, basically.
Yeah. Put aside our differences. Each side has their own, goals and all that, and they're trying to figure it out. So they have their own reasons for setting aside their differences, but neither one actually wants to make peace or an alliance with each other. But I think I used a non-hostility pact is the exact word I'd used.
Yeah, they're basically, enemy of my enemy is my friend in each other right now.
sure.
And so we were like, okay, so we go do Xingxi. Like that's what we're gonna go do. But then me as a character, I played with Xingxi, right? And I was explaining to everybody, and this was my biggest metagame spot where then I realized half hour into while we were going into this that's what I was doing. I'm looking at it from, I remember Xingxi at level 13 and the man was unkillable. He was a powerhouse at level 13 with the stuff that he had. I can only imagine what Nathan's got in store for us now that he's probably level 20 with his, legendary Vorpal greatsword.
Oh yeah. He's going to be stupid strong.
He's got everything. And the fact that Nathan explained to us in the last session that Chernobog didn't want anything to do with Xingxi. He's like, I don't want to deal with that guy. That guy's scary.
Right.
That guy's stupid freaking powerful. And metagame wise, yeah, he's level 15 to 17 now. He has 2 legendary artifacts. He's taken out his eye, put the eye of Odin inside of him, cut off his own hand, put the eye of Azazel on.
Right.
Or sorry, the hand of Azazel on. And he has a giant greatsword Vorpal sword. I don't want to screw with that guy, and I'm a demigod of the god of death.
Yeah, so that's to me. I'm sitting here we really want to go after Xingxi. This is crazy to me. And then Brent was like, "So do we think going after Rathgrif is easier?" And I was like, and then I thought about it, I'm like, no way. If Rathgrif is now the god of Muspelheim, right? And that's just, I can only imagine the shenanigans that she can pull off. And now that Gilvikel's going to get her sword for her, she's going to even be more broken. So then we were in this weird spot. So I believe that by the time we talked through everything and we're throwing different ideas back and forth, that and then I guess we got to talk about Rama having her vision.
Oh, yeah, so
because that affected our decision too.
She put on the helmet of Damanjal, and she'd asked in player and character, because it's basically a helmet of visions. It's a organic way to basically ask the DM, I'm lost in the weeds, I don't know what to do. What do I do? So she was going to originally ask about Xingxi. I think she's going to ask about Gilvikel. That question was tossed about.
We went back and forth for 15 minutes on the question that she should ask.
Really?
And then it got brought back up. What about this creation flame? That this got brought up.
Yeah, because I remember bringing that up specifically because I'm like, wait a minute. Surtur wanted the creation flame. Xingxi wants the creation flame. Rathgrif doesn't care, or at least we don't know that she has any interest or even knows about it or bothers with it. If we're going to go kill Xingshi, why aren't we going to find this as well?
And so she sat down and she kind of Doctor Faded out and had a vision, and it led to, and she rolled a 20.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
She rolled a nat 20 on the vision.
Nice.
So she she went to the vision, and then I had her roll
perception.
I think it was an arcane. It was either perception in nature or something kind of, because it basically took her out of her body like an astral projection. She asked, "Where's the creation flame?" And it started basically astral projecting her out of her body and leading her to a different direction. And so she rolled, I think, a perception or a nature or arcane.
Yeah, I think you had to do perception.
And she rolled a nat. It was probably perception then. And then she rolled a nat 20. So I said, it takes you to the east. And you go across this giant chasm. You go across this lava river because we're in Muspelheim. And it takes you to this humongous Mount Everest of volcanoes. It just has rivers, literal rivers of lava spewing down its side. And it shows you that. And then you go back into your body. And then afterwards, Damanjarl appears. Basically half break. He says, "I am astral projecting myself into this realm." I go, and then he explains that, "Hey, I am technically, because the Ragnarok happened, the giants, the Asgardians, the Vanir have all made this pact. The Asgardians and the Vanir will not enter Muspelheim, Jotunheim, or Niflheim, and we'll keep this pact and we'll keep the worlds afloat. And by me being here, I'm technically breaking this pact, and I'm the god of law. So I'm being unlawful, and I'm out of my comfort zone." But he sits down and kind of has this like uncle or stepdad conversation with her, and then kind of goes through, "I can see what you're seeing through that helm. That's one of the things that the little hidden enchantments that I put into it. Basically, when you have a vision, I can see it because I'm your god. You're a celestial warlock."
And I remember,
and then he goes,
it's such a cool idea too. Like the idea that when a god creates an artifact for somebody that gives them visions or gives them some kind of knowledge, that when it's used in that way, that the god also receives it, so he just knows what's going on all the time. Like, it's such a cool idea.
And Nordic gods aren't omnipotent, and they're very flawed. They're very flawed characters. That's one of the things that, like, all three of us, like, draws us to mythology. The Greeks, the Nordics, the Slavics, the Romans, the Egyptians, like, all their gods are so flawed and actual people. They're just very powerful. But he explains that he's not omnipotent, so he's basically kind of like, "Hey, I'm spying in on this security cam and seeing what you're seeing." And then he goes, "Your next steps need to be made very carefully. You're in a group of very so-so people." And then I go around the group and I point at Toybar, Chase's character, and I go, "Yeah, he's a great sorcerer. His quest is for knowledge and power."
Yeah.
Him getting the creation,
I desire power above all else.
Him getting the creation flame, you want to be careful about telling him. And I go to Colfax and you go, "He's a thief. And he wants to kill his brother. You be careful."
He's a thief and he wants to kill his brother.
And then I go over to Brent's character, Merrick, and I go, he is literally the right-hand man of the god of destruction, like, of wrath. And then Damanjarl had killed. Literally, he was one of the people that had killed Surtur in the first campaign. He goes, "I killed Surtur in our first encounter, and now he's back. And now this dude's the right-hand man of him. Watch out for him." And then I kind of go to Tove. Tove is a druid. I explain she values the sanctity of life. And she might be trustworthy, but she also started out as a rogue. She's very self-serving, so be careful. Just watch who you tell about this creation flame to. Us gods have known about this creation flame. We've kept it aside as a secret, as a quote-unquote nuclear deterrent, I had put it in the game.
Yeah.
To
because it's
if we need,
it's
it's basically
empty god spark.
Yeah, and it's a blank god spark. Basically, if we need to make a god to kind of like rally to our side, we will send that person there and make them a god for our side, and then from there, we know how to make a god or a goddess.
Right. Oh
And
my.
like,
And it's a
yeah,
blank
and
God
Rama,
spark, as in it has no domain, nothing. So whoever claims it gets to decide
Yeah.
their domains.
Oh my gosh.
so Vicky or Rama kind of just stood there and uh, it looked like a deer in headlights because she is the newest player. She don't know a lot about the setting,
Yeah,
and
she asked, what if she was the one that took the spark?
she asked Damodar that, and I'm happy she did. He goes, to be honest, out of all these outcomes, because I've been listening to a little bit, I can listen to your conversations, but I can't interject because you're in Muspelheim. I can't put myself through here. But now that I'm breaking basically the rules before I take off, you're the best possible outcome. You are probably, you know, if you're trying to seek doing the right thing, you getting that spark is probably the best outcome out of everything.
Really?
Well, I mean, he's been,
Because Vicky,
the god of justice has been
yeah,
guiding her.
Right.
If he looks at the
Well,
other
that-
guys that are in the party, he's like, oh god, it's all bad. She's got to be the best choice.
and then Vicky just kind of sits there and she kind of contemplates and she like questions it. And there's so many. I got to give her credit for a new player. She is struggling, and I can tell she is, but she's doing so good as well.
Mhm.
And she just don't realize it. As soon as she gets that player confidence, she's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Even more amazing than she already is. But she just like sits there and she contemplates and she asks everybody the right questions and just like granted it is through a player perspective, but she's gaining it through a character. And like I know Brenton or Merrick and you and Toybar kind of like, oh, have you asked her what about asking her about like Loki or Frey? And she goes, I don't care. I don't care about my parents. They weren't there for me. Why should I care about them now? And to me, that was the right answer.
Right.
Maybe, right? Because how long has she? The one thing I guess we probably don't know as players yet is how long she has been here on the plane without her memories, right? Has it been 50 years? Has it been,
Right.
a year and a half, right? So who knows?
No one knows.
So she was asking all the right questions, and that was the rest of the session was just us kind of going through the different choices, and we were sitting there for that long rest. I had to role play Tove a little bit. She was enjoying basically having these giant rabbits to basically take care of, and she was feeding them and taking care of them, and she had her little basic sorry, excuse
The
me.
rabbit, right? PPP.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
Princess
that's what I was trying to
Puff.
remember. That's what I was trying to remember was
right.
that's what I was trying to remember was the name of the rabbit. It's just like she has like these little like cinnamon or cinema. I'm not even quite sure what the word would be. It's just like these like consonant words where it's just like all beginning with one letter. The PPP or Sir Seagull Slayer, the SSS.
That's what she's doing.
I love Allison.
That's so awesome.
And I love Allison for that. Just like it's a little bit of a dad joke, I feel, on her part of just,
Right.
SSS, PPP, just adding to it. But that's basically what Tove did for the session. And then Rama had not an existential crisis, but just a very deep theological discussion.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a lot of fun. And I
But-
think in the end, didn't we decide to save the wizard in the tower?
Yeah,
We found
Silvera,
out that Baba Yaga's a big bitch.
A big bitch.
Well, yeah, we had a couple of
Yeah.
we had a couple other.
Baba Yaga's a bitch.
Yeah, well, we had a couple other revelations. One, the group did continue on to Silvera. The session ended with them coming to the Wandering Emporium.
Hey, we've been looking for it since like Brent joined.
Yeah, that was like Brent's number one like thing to like find was the Wandering Emporium for some reason. He mentioned it before. Why? But I can't remember why.
Yeah, it's because he asked somebody who knew about Muspelheim if there was anybody in Muspelheim that would aid us in trying to assist in the city, or who wouldn't just try to kill us on sight, right? Because we're outsiders or whatever. And someone had made the mention of the Wandering Emporium.
Yeah.
And ever since that mention, he has had it. He has had this hard line. We're going to find the Wandering Emporium. And he asks everybody all the time, and nobody ever knows where it's at. Or they know like where it was at like 4 months ago.
Yeah, because it's a Wandering like Emporium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's weird to find them at the foot of the mage trap. So might have some questions for this guy.
The other thing that we ran into was, I can't remember where it got brought in, but the tower. You'd found out that, as you mentioned, Baba Yaga was a bitch. Basically, she had mentioned in a previous session the tower behind her was, that's nothing to worry about. But in fact, it was basically holding the Sword of Wrathgrith, which she was as a dungeon master. There's a little bit of contradictory there, and I'm not quite sure how to explain it metagame wise because she's a little bit of an agent of Wrathgrith, but basically she's also guarding the Sword of Wrathgrith. So I'll have to figure out how to twist that one for sure.
You'll have to figure out how to get Gilfickle around her.
Oh, I'm sure that he can figure that out. The dude has like a 21 intelligence, or a 20 or 22 intelligence.
He's got godlike intelligence.
Yeah, like he's
been around for thousands of years, so.
My boy Gilvickle.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever seen that Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock Holmes TV series, but that's just kind of how I imagined his intelligence would be.
Oh,
and would that have shifted as the DM? Would that have shifted at all when he went from gnome to light up?
His mental facility, his mental capabilities didn't shift whatsoever. It was just all the physical.
So I'm asking this because I'm curious on a character sheet for him. He would now be a light elf. Does he get a bonus? Is there any bonuses to intelligence for light elves or anything? Like, did he get smarter because now he's a light elf?
It would be whatever the bonuses would be for high elf. I'd actually have to look that up on like D&D Beyond. It's
just an interesting thought process, right?
Or whatever it is online that they show basically all the nice stats for Roll20 because they show all kind of like a little preview of all the things on at least.
Yeah, Roll20 does a good job with it. More purple, more better. D&D Beyond is always good too.
Oh yeah, more purple, more better is like amazing. Patreon. We'll give another shout out to them. The second shout out of this.
I mean, we use it all the time. Like,
I've used it.
I can't imagine how many hours that guy puts into that. That's all I'm saying.
Hey everyone, I'd like to thank you so much for watching this episode of the Hermit's Homebrew. We have another episode coming out next Wednesday. Please like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast and support us as we continue to level up and grow.